For anyone watching this or listening, I want to encourage them to read the book Collective Courage by Dr. Gordon Nimhard. She really kind of chronicles kind of at a very, very substantial level some of the history of that. And if I could summarize it, I mean, since Africans were brought here to the United States, folks have always had to organize themselves for mutual aid. Uh, the context of their lives required that, being enslaved people provided with meager resources to sustain themselves. Collectivizing economics was essential. And that continued on through the 18th century, 19th century, even during the Jim Crow era. Again, it was critical that people work together under segregation. There weren't many options elsewhere, and even more so in rural places. Even to this day, and that's been historically true, but I would argue even to this day, all of the metrics one can identify in urban spaces that, demonstrate how oppression is occurring in Black communities, be it policing, be it poverty, be it crime, be it, any host of things you could point to. Those are found in rural communities and sometimes in more horrid extremes. So even back then in the 60s, when the Federation was formed, the objective conditions there required that people work together. And what happened in our particular history is that you had civil rights workers from SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and CORE, the Congress on Racial Equality. They went into these rural communities like they did in Mississippi and elsewhere. But I think with the particular workers that encountered our people, what became our membership, they found folks who were not unorganized. They were already organized in what you might call proto-cooperative forms. They didn't always call what they were doing a cooperative, but in essence, they were pooling their resources to reduce costs, to get better prices, and to try to kind of spread the risk. What the civil rights workers brought to the table was a network. They were part of a regional network of people doing the same thing. And what those rural communities brought to the table was this organizational form. And from my analysis of the Federation's history, I think that really sets the Federation apart from a lot of its contemporaries at the time. Few organizations were as consciously and intentionally working at the intersection of race and class as the Federation was. I mean, from the very outset, the work was about organizing Black rural communities, not only to deal with the impact of Jim Crow, but to organize themselves for economic justice, to build economic power through cooperative development. That was a very conscious approach. I would even add, one could say it was intersectional, not that they thought of it that way, but from the very beginning, we had Black women leaders at the core driving the work. So, that's kind of what the core of everything was looking like. In addition to that, many of those early members were landowners who had experienced either directly or indirectly all the various machinations that public and private forces utilize to disempower Black folks and to rob them of a land resource, right? So that really kind of precipitated the formation of the Federation. In 1967, 22 cooperatives from throughout the South came together here in Atlanta and formed the Federation of Southern Cooperatives Land Assistance Fund. And 55 years later, one of the great successes we've had was, growing that number from 22 to more than 75 ag-based cooperatives. The work of the Federation in many ways has preserved Black farmers in the region, has preserved a tradition of Black cooperative development, and in some ways preserved some modicum of a rural middle class among Black folks that were able to send their kids to college and learn and do all sorts of things. So that 50-year history is really rooted in real work to maintain cooperative economics as a way of survival and collective prosperity.